Hello and welcome back to my channel. On July 22nd, I celebrated 5 years since my total colectomy and getting rid of that pesky colon. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it. I've made some videos about my story with my ulcerative colitis, when I had my ostomy. I posted a video about 2 years since having my J pouch, but I thought I would talk a little bit about how it's been since having my colon removed. So in 2019, the beginning of 2019, I was in a flare-up. It was actually slow. Usually my flare-ups would happen very quickly and I'd get sick really fast, but it was coming on slowly. So we tried some things to help calm down the colon, and by June, it was really bad. I saw my GI for a checkup, and it was decided that we were going to remove my colon. That was the next step, was surgery. I had already done some research because I felt like that's what was gonna happen. So I had already started searching. I found YouTube videos of people with an ostomy bag, and I was mentally preparing myself for that. And yeah, it's still hard to hear that you're gonna have a surgery. Because I had taken 2 biologics, I had done Humira several years prior, ended up having like a reaction to it, so we pulled me off of that. And then I did Entyvio infusions up until me getting sick. I remember the last infusion I had before I saw my GI, I came home and I threw up, and I just knew, I was like, I don't think this is working for me anymore. So my GI referred me to a really great surgeon. And what's funny is they called me to set up a consultation because the surgeon was going to talk to me about the surgery and all of that. The day that I was supposed to see them, at this point I'd already been throwing up on top of having diarrhea. I was barely keeping anything down. So I called them to see if they had an earlier appointment because my appointment was in the afternoon. And my surgeon, unfortunately, was in the hospital doing rounds, or I think maybe he was also doing surgeries in the morning, and he wasn't actually going to be in the office until the afternoon. So they're like, your appointment, we're actually working you in, your appointment is actually the earliest. And I was like, okay. I had just thrown up and I was tasting blood. I didn't throw up blood, but my throat was so raw I could taste blood. So I told the receptionist, and she was like, okay, I'll leave a note, we may call you back. And they ended up calling me back. I was actually in the bathroom. My mom answered the phone, and they were like, come to the hospital and we're gonna admit you. So I didn't even have my consultation with the surgeon. I met him for the first time in the ER. Gosh, I think at that point I had been there a little bit, so it was probably late afternoon when I finally met him. And he walked into the room as I had dozed off a little bit from, they were giving me pain meds, nausea medicine, and I kind of had dozed off, and I woke up and started to vomit in the emesis bag as he walked in. So he then explained, all right, we're gonna do this. But he wanted to give my colon a few days to calm itself, which is kind of funny to think about because I don't think it ever calmed itself. But they were gonna give me some medications and just attempt to before, I think it was more like trying to get my body in a better state for surgery. But I really wanted it out. I was like, can we do this now? So it was I think it was towards the end of the week, and it went through the weekend, and then it was the beginning of the next week when we actually did the surgery, which is really hard when you feel as bad as I did, and you just want that inflamed organ out. But he explained to me that it was going to be a 3-step process. Like I said, I've talked about this before, but for him, this varies by surgeons. Sometimes they just do it in 2 steps. But my surgeon wanted to, because I was so sick, he was going to do the total colectomy. So he's going to remove my colon, but he was going to leave my rectum kind of just hanging out there, because he wanted it to have time to kind of calm down. And then after I had healed from that first surgery, I would have my temporary ileostomy. Then we were going to do the 2nd step, where he removed my rectum with the exception of that rectal cuff, basically just that sphincter. And then he was going to redo my stoma, because he was going to pull the end bit of the small intestines and form my little J pouch, and then give me an updated temporary ileostomy, which would be a loop ileostomy, since it was a different part of the intestines. And then after I healed after that, the last surgery would be the takedown surgery, where we put my intestines back into my body, and then I just utilized the J pouch. So that was a plan. Unfortunately, when I get that sick, Zofran doesn't work for me. Phenergan is the only thing that helps. So it kind of stinks, because they can only give you, they can rotate it and do every 4 hours one, then the next 4 hours the next one, since they're like every 8 hours. So it was hard when the Zofran doesn't work, but they can't give you anything else. So, but yeah, I ended up having my surgery. The surgery went well. I did end up having what's called an ileus, and that is where, which, just forewarning, walk as much as you can after surgery. I was walking, but not as much, because this was the first surgery I'd ever had, and I was in so much pain. You do not realize how much you use your abdominals just to get out of the bed. It was excruciating pain just getting out of bed to go to the bathroom, just because, and it was all, I wasn't even cut open at that point. It was just like all very small incisions, because he did it laparoscopically. So it was just wild to me that I was like, wow, I've only got a few spots that are gonna heal and this stoma, but it was just crazy. So I did not probably walk as much as I needed to. So I got what's called an ileus, and it is, it's almost like getting an obstruction where your organs, walking helps wake up your organs. It helps push that gas that they had to fill you up with for surgery. It just helps get everything moving. And I didn't walk as much. So because of that, my organs were taking longer to wake up, and I ended up getting sick. And so that wasn't fun, because then I was starting to throw up again, and you don't want to tear your stitches. It like hurt where my stoma was. But thankfully it kind of worked itself out after a couple days. So just note to self, do a lot of walking afterwards. So I was in the hospital for probably about 2 weeks before I got released. And then I was on FMLA for my work to heal, mainly because you can't lift anything heavier than 10 pounds. So they usually give you about 6 weeks to recover from surgery before you can then, go back to work, lift anything heavier than 10 pounds. And then I was adjusting to life with my stoma. They did have, for my insurance, a home health nurse came out for the first couple of weeks that I was home to help me with bag changes. I was doing them myself. I mean, she just kind of assisted and helped with questions and stuff, but I feel like maybe 2 weeks, and then I was pretty okay with doing the bag changes. So yeah, so I had that, which was really nice. I had a ton of, whenever you are looking for samples for the different pouches, there's all kinds of brands that you can look for. There's Hollister, Convatec, many others, and you can actually go to their sites, and they generally have like free samples, which was kind of nice. Hollister actually had, which was really nice, like a whole like kit that you could apply for that was free. It had a little travel bag and a few other things, I think a mirror, and then some of their products. So that was actually really nice, other than just having to pick products. They also have a stoma nurse that sees you in the hospital, so they are doing the bag changes, but they're kind of walking you through what to look for and all of that. So It wasn't like they just sent you out. It was definitely the best move, and I do not regret it, despite getting sick, ending up having adhesions later on after my second surgery, and then getting them again a year later. I do not regret it at all. My colon was she just had a lot of inflammation, and life has been just so much better. Things have actually been going really well lately. My output has kind of thickened up. I really haven't done anything different, but I have gained some weight, which I think has probably helped that thicken up, because I had lost a lot of weight getting sick, and then after each surgery, because I would end up throwing up, I just lost a lot of weight. And with my ileostomy, once I had the loop, it was kind of higher output. So I maintained weight, but I never gained back what I lost from being really sick. So I've finally kind of gotten back to the weight that I was before all of my surgeries. It was honestly the best decision of my life. I'm so glad I did it. It saved me, honestly. And now I'm not having to, I still see doctors that are like specialty doctors. I'll see my surgeon. We do scopes every 2 years. I still see my GI because he can still prescribe me like nausea medicine if I'm still having issues, or Lamodal, things like that. So it's not as high priority, but I am seeing him yearly. So I am seeing like specialty doctors outside of my PCP, but I'm not on any medication that is maintaining my ulcerative colitis, since the colon was the main issue. I can still get inflammation in the rectal cuff, and you can get inflammation in the J pouch called pouchitis. So far, so good. Really, I'm not taking any medications for my ulcerative colitis, and it is such a nice, freeing thing to think about after taking all kinds of medications from 2012 till 2019. I do have as needed medications, like I said, the Lamodal. Sometimes I'll have to take Zofran when I get a little nauseated here and there. They're just as needed. I'm not having to take them out every day, and they usually don't cost as much with my insurance. So that is kind of how I ended up needing to have my colon removed, having the total colectomy, and life has been great without that colon. I posted a little bit about it on my Instagram. Feel free to go check that out. Links are below to my social media. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. I do videos about IBD, ulcerative colitis, my J pouch, life when I had an ostomy, things like that. So if there's anything that you want to see in particular that pertains to anything like that, feel free to put it in the comments, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.